Because she says it in this book, in this movie, I mean. And the people who made her say it in the movie are stupid. Because they fucked it all up. That's all. Now I can keep moving. So.
No, that was insightful. I didn't think about any of that, so you're good.
Okay, so after the chess match, Harry leaves Hermione and Ron. They have a big emotional moment.
False. That is not the way it happens in the book.
Right.
They go into the potions room, don't they?
Right, and they walk over the troll, which pissed you off.
Yeah.
Did not happen in the movie. They could have kept that stuff in. Of all scenes in the movie, the whole ending? Really? You're just gonna just make up the whole ending of the story? No, people, you're wrong in all your ways.
They spent too much time on the Quidditch scene. So they had to cut the most important one in the movie.
And Hagrid had even said that Snape was helping guard the stone. So cutting Snape's scene, like, he's the only one that's mentioned helping guard the stone, and you cut his part in helping guard the stone? What the fuck?
Again, another major fucking player just taken out of the game.
Yeah. Cut the fucking devil snare scene. Keep the potion scene. Come on. I'm upset about this.
Well, it seems like a no-brainer. That's the climax.
It's like the pre-climax to the climax.
Right, but, for the puzzles, you're getting through all of these crazy rooms that are actually just giant locks for something behind it. And that potions room was Hermione's whole reason for, spoiler alert, getting the extra points at the end of the fucking movie. And they just, that never happened.
So she got points for nothing.
Right.
How'd she get those points, people? Didn't happen.
To jump it a little bit, but did you catch Dumbledore cleverly switching what he says to her? Instead of saying getting the points for
the cool use of intellect
in the face of fire.
Right.
He said for the use of cool intellects when others are in critical danger or something like that.
Right.
Like he just took out the fire part, and he was like, that'll work.
Because, bringing us to the next part, which is basically from the potions room to the final room, there's no fire. There's no Harry getting wrapped up in ropes by nonverbal magic, which we've discussed.
None of the fancy shit.
No creepy Q walking backwards.
Just none of it. And I'm sorry, but they could have done the fancy stuff. They had the abilities to do the fancy stuff.
The only scene in the movie that I saw that I was a little bit disappointed with was the dragon scene when he's on the table, because you can tell. You're like, okay, that's definitely a CG dragon. I'm not saying they did a bad job with it. It was a little bit underwhelming. They could have made it look a lot better. But I know that shit's expensive, and this was the first Harry Potter movie, so they probably didn't go all out until they knew they were going to get their money back.
I do have something to say about that. When we were watching at home, we were watching on, now obviously, everybody knows we have like 4K TVs now. So, as we were watching that, I did notice in the Quidditch scene, when one of the girls from Gryffindor comes flying around, you clearly see that whole thing is just total CGI. Like, there was nothing real about that scene at all.
Yeah, all of the flying. Neville falling is pretty obvious. It's not him. And Harry flying with the keys was all CGI too.
Yeah, how brutal was that fall? He caught on his cloak twice before he hit the ground. I laughed out loud when he did that. It would have been terrifying, but I thought it was funny. But again, yeah, totally CG.
Well, I was kind of glad he got caught again. Imagine if he hadn't. Like, he would have fallen from higher.
Oh, he would have been dead for sure.
Right?
I'm sure all of that was in the waiver that his grandmother did not sign.
Right. So, Harry is facing off with Voldemort. Nobody's using their wands, because they're all just completely inept at magic, apparently. Now, they just lost all knowledge of it. And they just start handsing each other. Just start, going at it. And instead of blistering, he crumbles into ash, which was a bold choice. I feel. So Harry actually murdered him.
Yeah, no, it was totally Harry's fault now.
Yeah. And he's like triumphantly grabbing the stone, and then he gets ran into by Voldemort's smoke, and then he passes out, which I feel like is such a weirder way of doing that scene than just having him pass out while grappling with Quirrell and then waking up to Dumbledore explaining it. Like, I feel like that would have been so much better.
We do find out later on what happens to Quirrell. I'm wondering if in the movie they tried to make it more of a final, like, nope, he's dead. We're not going to question anything.
Yeah, I think that was it. They wanted to make it very explicitly clear that Harry had killed the bad guy and he was triumphant and that Voldemort's spirit was out there. It wasn't like an ambiguous question at the end of the movie.
Right.
But, I don't know, it just makes it, for all the effort they took to have, like, Hermione not actually be knocking down Quirrell, somebody else does, and them not actually locking Hermione in the bathroom, somebody else does, like, for all that work, Harry's a murderer.
That's the moral of the story, kids.
Yeah.
Just kill him.
I mean, like an accidental one, though. He didn't intend to.
Yeah, he did. That guy grabbed, I mean, you could argue self-defense, kind of, but, like, he grabbed his hand, and his hand started to, like, fall off, and Harry was like, oh, shit! That's pretty intense. And then the guy was, like, standing there like, what is going on? And Harry was like, oh, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to destroy your face now. And he went at him with his two hands.
True.
Like this.
True.
That's intent.
That's intent.
Yes. Yep. I can't even argue that logic. That's
He straight up
100%.
murdered that motherfucker.
He totally could have kept trying to run away and, like, batting at him behind him, but, like,
I'm going to touch you again.
oh yeah, Ash Hand. Let's see what's going on, bud. But no, he wanted to murder that guy.
I just keep hearing Ash Hand. It's not funny, but it is funny. Like, it's just funny.
We're going to take another quick break real quick, and we'll be right back. And we're back.
So then the rest of this, like, wraps up really quick and actually kind of accurately. We get a shortened version of our hospital talk, and he doesn't get other visitors in the hospital. And we cut straight to the feast after their talk. I'm not going to talk long about their talk because I feel like it wasn't really that different.
No, I agree. It really wasn't. I did question because I couldn't remember, and I was going to ask you guys. The only thing that I thought might have been different in that scene was instead of Harry asking Dumbledore why he couldn't touch Quirrell, Dumbledore said, Harry, do you want to know why you couldn't? Like, it was, like, brought on by Dumbledore instead of Harry. And I didn't know if I was thinking that wrong. But other than that, I mean, there really wasn't anything extra specially invalid about any of that, really.
Nothing you couldn't forgive.
Right. I can forgive that moment.
Yeah. And then we move straight into the feast, which goes pretty closely with the books. Everyone's like, yay, Gryffindor.
Yeah. And I think we already touched on really the only part there that is kind of invalid at this point is because Hermione didn't have her scene of potions, so therefore, how did she really earn those points? But then they kind of switched verbiage, so yada yada.
Well, that brings us to Hagrid saying goodbye to Harry. And in the book, there's not a whole lot of detail when he says goodbye to Hagrid.
Hold on. You're right. Real quick before we go to that, I want to bring up those ugly hats.
Oh, okay.
Oh, the hats are a big deal.
We talked about, we like stopped ourselves from talking about this on an earlier podcast. We got to talk about the hats real quick. Their costumes are, I can forgive the rest of the costumes, even though it's not just a robe over normal clothes. But those hats are terrible. They're the worst thing ever. If you're going to make them wear witches' hats, at least put the brim on so they can, like, shield them from some weather, some inclement weather. These things are just ugly little dunce caps.
They look like elf hats.
Yeah, they're bad. And they serve no purpose.
None.
Except when they throw them in the air.
Right. It shows Malfoy at one point take his and, like, mash it all up into a ball and throw it down. And so, like, that thing wouldn't look good. After a whole year of just being like, fuck this hat. There's no bill, like you said, so there's no hard part to the hat at all to keep its shape. So it would just turn into a big crumpled pile of crap. When you put it on, it would flop over. Just bad.
Like a head sock?
Yeah, like a head sock. Made of felt, apparently, because that's what they looked like.
Yeah.
They looked like an afterthought. Oh, shit, we need pointy hats.
Yeah.
Well, what do you got?
Yeah. Well, we got a bunch of fabric left from the robes.
From the robes, right?
Fucking sew it up, bud.
No, oh my gosh, you are so right. I didn't even think about that, but it literally looks like robe fabric.
Yeah.
I'm seeing it now, and it's really funny.
But yeah, so, sorry. Continue.
Oh. Then we get to Harry saying goodbye to Hagrid. And in the movie, Hagrid is like looking out for Harry. Because he goes, hey, you know, if that dolt cousin of yours, I think he calls him, gives you any trouble, you know, you're a wizard now. And Harry goes, well, you know, we can't use magic outside of the school. And he goes, well, he doesn't know that. And gives Harry the idea, hey, fuck with your cousin for me, please. Even rings back to the earlier episode that we talked about where he gives him the tail. And in the movie, he's like, tell him maybe he needs a set of ears to go with his tail. And he's just feeding him all this horrible shit to do to Dudley, which he deserves it. But in the book, Harry comes up with that. He's like, oh, I'm going to go fuck with Dudley.
Yeah.
I'm going to fuck with him so bad, which is what I think any one of our attitudes would be leaving Hogwarts. That guy is finally going to get his due.
And I mean, I think it's a forgivable change because they do still have it in there. And the train ride back and actually what happens once they get to King's Cross isn't that entertaining, other than Harry saying that. And while it would be more satisfying coming out of Harry's mouth, at least we still get that moment.
I think they just didn't want to paint him like a dick.
Probably, yeah.
He's the good guy. He just won the day, so we don't want to be like, now I'm going to turn around and be a shitty person.
Right. He does make a little comment about already being home, and that's not in the book, but it's cute. This is the scene, though, that Hermione has the buck teeth.
Oh, and she finally... This was the first one that they filmed.
Yes.
That would be so backwards. We're going to film all of you guys saying goodbye, and then we're going to go through and do the movie.
I'm curious on if the teeth inhibited speech.
I think they did.
Yeah. I feel like I could have heard that or maybe read it or something. They probably had some issues with her being able to do her lines and saying things, and she probably sounded funny, and they probably were just like, and we're not doing that.
Yeah, I think it gave her a little bit of a lisp, and I'm willing to bet she was real spitty.
Yeah.
Like, anytime you put a new thing in your mouth that you haven't been used to, you get real spitty. So I'm sure she was just flinging it everywhere, and they were like, you know what? Nah.
Isn't going to work.
We're going to opt out, all right? And you know what that means, Harry? You don't have to wear the contacts, all right? Nobody has to wear the extra shit. That's what we're going to do. That's what we're doing.
Everybody got their way.
Yeah. So, that was it, guys. I do really want to play with some of the special features on the special features disc. We're not going to do that tonight. We've already been here for a little bit longer than we needed to be.
Yeah.
But it was fun. So I think we can get together another night. We can pull out that special features and fuck around on that a little bit. Maybe we'll put that on the Patreon page as a little bonus.
Yeah, absolutely. I do believe we're going to have one more episode as just kind of an overall grab bag of stuff that we maybe forgot to mention or something from an earlier episode we wanted to bring up again. I found a couple bits of good information about things we have talked about in earlier episodes, and I wanted to bring those up, but I didn't want to do it during the movie episode. But I am really glad we got to do this, even though we all had to watch it separately today, so that kind of sucked. The plan was for us to all get together and watch it together, but